and welcome to Americans Talk Australian Survivor. I'm Rachel.
I'm Leah.
And I'm Matt.
Thanks for joining us. We just watched episode 16 of Australian Survivor Brains vs. Brawn 2, and there will be spoilers ahead. We open up on a chaotic night back from Tribal, where Logan has just played her idol at the suggestion of Karin for herself, sending Laura to be the first member of the jury.
Oh, wow. It was sad to see Laura go.
It was really tough to see her go, but Karin and Logan are talking, and they're saying that no one knows that Karin told her to play the idol, so Logan feels like Karin is her main ally now in this game.
And it's obvious that Logan is feeling very uneasy. I mean, getting all those votes.
Yeah, she's extremely upset.
Right.
And there's just so many people running around this episode talking. Most of the episode is focuses on these discussions between all the different players.
Plotting.
Correct.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, even that first night back at camp, AJ goes to the guys, Kaylin and Miles, and he even says, I think it was Kaz,
Yes.
may have suggested it. So I thought that was so interesting. How did he pick up on it? I guess there were whispers at Tribal last night.
Yeah, Miles did say, did you see they were talking and stuff like that? So, but AJ does pick up on everything.
Yeah, so good for him. And he says that he is after Karin this episode.
Right. And then let's get to the reward.
So it's a very exciting reward. It's the auction.
Yeah, it's always exciting to see that because you know someone's going to end up eating something weird and someone's going to end up with a great reward.
But as Jonathan reminds us, there's always a twist in Survivor or, in this case, in the auction. So I feel like we struck gold with the first auction. I think they knocked it out of the park, try one, no need to change it, and they keep changing it. Every iteration of Survivor seems to want to put their own twist on the auction. So what did you guys think about this one?
Well, it was interesting because they tossed a coin, right? And you get to pick heads or tails, and you get to see one of the two items if you said heads or tails correctly.
I think a fun thing about the auction is that you never know when it's going to end, right? Traditionally, you never know when the auction's going to end, and somebody ends up with a bunch of money and they never bid on anything because they were holding off for the cheeseburger or whatever it was, and they end up with nothing. This time, everybody got something.
Well, there was no money involved.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's just kind of a little disappointing that somebody didn't get burned.
Well, in a way they did. Someone was very upset this auction. But let's start with Miles. Miles tosses the coin and he gets a loaf of bread, which isn't that bad. It's not exactly exciting. But the second person, poor Polly, what does he get to choose from, Rach?
Well, Polly had such an interesting thing. So he flipped the coin, he guessed it correctly, and he gets to pick to see what's under one of the hoods of his options. And the first thing that Jonathan reveals is a phone. And Polly immediately, well, first he doesn't know what it is. Everyone's like, oh, knowing, of course, it's called your loved ones. And Polly doesn't get it.
He didn't know. But who knows? Then, I mean, he could just be, sleep deprived and starving,
Yeah, but it was just funny to see him not understand. And then as soon as it's explained to him, he says, pass.
Yeah.
Like, not even a second's hesitation.
Well, he wants food.
And I kind of agree with Polly on this one. I think, if you don't have little kids at home and you're not waiting on some big news, you can talk to your family after the game. You've got to play the game of Survivor while you're in it. So
these muscles need food or something.
Yeah.
Isn't that what he said?
Yeah, so I kind of agree with Polly on this one. I say take the food, pass up on the opportunity to talk to your loved ones. But unfortunately, see, this is what I don't like about this new auction. Typically, Polly would have the opportunity to say, I'm not going to vote on this. I'll wait for the cheeseburger to come up or whatever. But now he selects the other option that's covered that he doesn't know, and it's just a pickle.
Yeah, he was so upset. Yeah, so upset.
And he had no, opportunity to get something good. It was just the luck of the draw. He was up, and his options were a phone or a pickle. So he had no choice but to get that. So that was I didn't like that part of the new auction era that we're in.
Well, yeah, it was disappointing. I mean, he was throughout the whole auction, he was very upset. But
yes, very vocally upset.
He was.
Right. But we see Kaylin gets rice, Morgan gets a coconut drink.
Yeah, so at
both
this point,
are pretty disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at this point, we're like, is there anything good under these lids?
AJ said something, this is the worst auction.
Yeah. So, if you like pickles and you haven't had a pickle in 30 days, a pickle might not be that bad. At least it's some flavor as opposed to rice that you've been eating every day, right, and coconuts that you've been drinking every day. Just saying, a pickle might not be that bad
Right,
if
but
you
the
like
rice
them.
is much more fulfilling.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
But anyway,
Well, finally,
go ahead.
finally, we start to see some good food come out of
Yes.
Jonathan's auction booth, and Karen gets a piece of pie. It's a pretty hefty piece of
Yeah.
pie, so
Yeah.
she seemed very happy.
Is that lemon meringue?
Then we see Zara gets a full meal with a steak and fries, so we're finally starting to see some of her classic auction items come out. Then, next up, Kate gets an advantage. So this was kind of interesting. She flips the coin, she sees that it's an advantage and has to make the choice, does she want to take it or not? And it looked like she was kind of thinking about not taking
Well,
it.
maybe she didn't know if it was an advantage. Maybe it was, they didn't say it was going to be an advantage for sure.
Yeah, I guess I just assumed based on other seasons that of course it's going to be an advantage.
Yeah, it would be really bad if she had to do something in order to keep her
Well,
vote
you
or
never
something.
know.
I know. So
Yeah, there's always a twist.
all you need is one pickle, and you can get your...
Yeah. But Kate ends up taking it, and it ends up being a stolen item, and she's not happy about this. So I kind of agree with Kate. This means that anything that's presented, she can steal from another player. I remember a couple seasons ago, they did an reward like this where someone got one of everything that everyone else got, and I like that. Bring back that.
Oh,
advantage.
that was,
a lot more
yeah,
fun.
that was our favorite. Luke won that.
Yeah,
That
Luke
was
got
really
that
fun.
advantage.
Right, he got
and
to
that
sit
was
at
cool.
the...
You got a piece of cake, you got
Right.
pasta.
Remember they had him sit at a special table right next to Jonathan? Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Now that's a reward.
Yeah,
Yeah, so bring that back, Jonathan.
Yeah.
So I feel kind of bad for Kate. She's put in this awkward position. I mean, it's better than a pickle, but then she immediately uses it when Kristen reveals lasagna, and then Kate steals it.
Yeah.
And it was just, I didn't really like that. Then someone else loses out. It just wasn't that fun.
Yeah.
So what's her other option? Just not play it?
Right, she had to do it.
Well,
But
it was kind of late in the game, as you said earlier, Matt.
When we were watching, it just seems like it's... So it should have been the second one, right? That should have been like the second thing that somebody picked, not so late when there's only 3 things left. So basically she had a choice of lasagna, a pepperoni pizza, or a call home.
Yeah,
Correct,
so not a whole lot of options.
Right.
So AJ was happy with his pizza, and Logan, boy, does she have 2 cute kids. She received a phone call from home, and oh, those kids are cute.
Very emotional.
Yeah, I see why she would have gone with the phone call,
Yes.
and Polly didn't, because she has little kids. She wanted to check in on them.
Plus, she had a rough night last night.
Yeah, she's feeling much more alone in the game, so it makes sense why she wanted the phone call, and we'll see if it helps her moving forward.
So
I got a laugh out of her saying, I almost got voted out last night.
Yeah. She so now we're back at camp, and AJ's once again wants Karen out.
Yeah, so AJ has this idea that he wants to work with the people from the Brawn tribe, so Polly, Kate, Morgan, and he wants Karen out, but Miles does not. And this is one of the reasons why I think AJ and Miles' alliance is so unique, is that, or kind of interesting, is that Miles isn't planning on telling AJ. He's just kind of planning to go behind his back, get Kate out. But then it sounds like he's not planning to cut Miles out of his game. I think that he's planning on them kind of coming back at the end of this vote if they vote separately and becoming allies again. And I always like those sort of players in Survivor where you don't have to be 100% loyal to someone to still see the advantage in each other.
Go do your thing and we'll be friends later on. I don't agree with what you're doing, but I got to do this, you got to do that. Let's see what happens.
All right.
Yeah, I
now
always think that's more fun.
Now we're at the immunity challenge.
This was tough. The players had to lift up a leg and balance a ball on a beam. And if they moved their leg even a little bit, their ball fell out and they were out of the challenge. This looked like it would be tough even for 2 minutes, let alone however long they went.
Know.
And the first one out was Kaylin.
Yeah, our double immunity winner.
Yeah.
So they were dropping quickly. Yeah, they were out quickly. It was very tough. Eventually we get to 55 minutes where it's just Kate versus Logan, and we see Kate wants to make it more challenging.
I know. Yeah.
So,
put your hands behind your back. Like, wow.
I always wonder when people say things like that, you know, like let's up the ante a little bit. Do you think that they think that they're about to go out and they're like, I've got to change things up really quickly or mess up my opponent? Or do you think they genuinely are
She wasn't flinching.
Yeah, she was very. But and then meanwhile, Logan's talking, looking around.
I know.
But then that killed Logan because she saw a spider on her foot, and instead of just not looking at the spider, that's all she could think of. She's looking down, and then when she tries to, use air to move the spider, that's when she loses it and loses the challenge. Very upsetting that she lost her focus.
Yeah, she was too focused on the spider and not focused on the challenge. So she moved her hands, which is really too bad because that was the
added part.
Right, that wasn't even part of the initial challenge, and
right.
That's what got her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess if you're out there for an hour and 15 minutes and you see a spider, you would get a little antsy and want to do something.
It's interesting.
Too bad she had no allies in the game to walk over and move the spider.
Oh, yeah. They should have done that, yeah. I didn't even think about that. So Kate wins, and then we're back at camp, and everything's going all over again, all the conversations.
Yeah, so Karin was targeting Kate because Karin's thinking that Kate and Morgan are one of the buddy pairs that we've been talking about the last few episodes. And she's seeing that Kate and Morgan are getting pretty close to AJ. So she wants to wound AJ by taking one of them out. And that's kind of the plan that Miles was thinking of as well. So Karin is very upset that Kate won. She just goes on and on about it, but finally says, okay, I guess we'll target Morgan. So Karin's plan is to do a 5-3-2 split. She wants 5 on Morgan, 3 on Polly, and then 2 on Logan.
That's just very ambitious to think you could pull that off.
Well, she's talking to AJ and Miles, so.
I know.
Yeah, they always seem to have these grand plans of exactly how the votes are going to fall, and they never do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was interesting because then AJ gets suspicious of Kaz, as he calls her, and he says, hey, she's being too nice to him.
There's something
so he
wrong.
thinks something's wrong, yeah.
Which is suspicious, knowing those two. So then on the flip side, the plan that AJ has concocted, he wants himself, Miles, Polly, Morgan, and Kate to go 5 on Logan. And we already know that Miles isn't in on that. So now Miles and Polly are kind of talking and saying, listen, we get to kind of decide who goes home. So like we've been talking about in previous episodes, this is always really fun to see how the dynamic and the power shifts episode to episode. Who would have guessed a few days ago that Polly is in power?
Right.
All people.
Right, and who would have thought 10 episodes that Miles would be in power?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So if you were Miles and Polly, who would you have taken out? Would you have targeted Logan or would you have targeted Morgan?
I think Logan.
I think Morgan.
I just think it seems like it's her time to go, and she just might be able to turn it around and become friends with everybody. I'm not really positive why, but I just feel like she needs to go.
I think Logan's been a very impactful player, so I think she should stay. Morgan, I don't hear as much from Morgan. I don't see her doing as much, so I think she should leave, not Morgan. Morgan's really playing the game.
Well, I think that Morgan's being quiet and not doing as much makes her a more valuable player in the setting of the merge, because that's a player that you might be able to beat at the end. If she doesn't have a lot on her resume, she may be someone you want to keep in the game.
I like the people who play.
Logan can say, I nearly got voted out, and I stayed, and I did this, and I continued even though I did not have a friend in the game.
Yeah, looking at the end game, I would not want to be sitting next to Logan if I were playing. However, for this vote, I think if I were Miles and Polly, I would target Morgan, because that way you're taking AJ down a peg and you're making sure that you're keeping him close as an ally. Because I think that AJ, if he gets a little bit too much power, he could really turn on Miles and Polly. So I think it's...
and I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, he's becoming very close to Kate.
Yeah, so I think those two really have to keep a close eye on AJ. Well, then we see the scramble continue. We see that AJ's talking to Kristen and Zara, and there's just a lot of talk. Zara's now talking to Karin. Karin goes to Caitlin, and then we see an argument between Karin and, well, it's the graduates plus Kristen, and Karin is really upset by these last minute plans. So Karin gets very easily, I think her, I don't know if it's her ego or she feels like she's left out very often in this game, and she really takes it to heart. And I feel like it's going to harm her, because here she is again saying, you're making last minute plans and we should have talked about this before. And she seems a little bit unsettled by the changes.
All right. So, I want to jump to tribal, because I think that all this conversation it was going on the whole show. But I like the tribal now because Laura comes in. She looks beautiful. Everyone's like, woohoo, right?
Yeah, she looked great. So it's always fun to see the first jury member come out.
And then
Only person
Jonathan,
in the group to have showered.
right, she looks great. And Jonathan drops a bomb.
Yet again.
Tonight is going to be a little different.
So instead of voting someone out, they're dividing into 2 teams. And then tomorrow, whichever team wins immunity, all of them are safe from the vote. And then the added twist is that one of the tribes is going back to the initial camp, and then the other tribe has to go and make a new camp.
And it's nighttime.
Yeah, I feel like we already did the tribes.
Right.
Yeah,
we're past that part of the game.
Right.
I'm just not a fan of this, and I've said it before. Just splitting them into groups once they're one group, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, and then
I don't think
to make matters worse, the team that's doing so well, they also get an advantage, right?
Yeah.
So to make it even
at
the next immunity challenge, I mean, it's just unbelievable.
So really, what this is doing is we're more or less saying these people are going to be safe at tomorrow's tribal council, and this tribe is not.
Yeah, it's too bad.
But I do like that Kate got to be on the winner's tribe, the bounty tribe, because I was thinking initially as he was saying, tonight's going to be a little bit different. I was thinking, well, that's really annoying that Kate worked really hard and won immunity, and now no one's even getting voted out. So I'm glad that she still got some sort of advantage.
I agree with
her
you.
immunity.
Right.
But I bet Logan was just kicking herself like.
Yeah, she was so close. But then the other twist is that we're still voting, and the people with 2 people with the most votes are automatically on the Baron tribe, and then everyone else draws rocks. So there's just a lot of confusion going on at this point in the game. I thought it was too much for a tribal council. I didn't like how chaotic it was. I kind of wish we just had a straightforward vote at this point in the game.
Yes, it's too late to be throwing these crazy things into the game.
Right. You think every episode someone's going home at this point.
Yeah, it's always fun to have a twist and to switch up the game a little bit, but this is too much in my opinion. I hope that they don't make this a regular part of the show.
I doubt they will. I think they just wanted to do different things. So Kate, as a winner, picks Morgan to go with her, right? So
yes,
those 2 are safe and know they're doing well.
And no one's surprised.
No.
Yeah. But what's interesting is then we see all these whispers about who we're going to vote for to put on the Baron tribe. And Miles, so everyone's, like, oh, let's go stick with the plan. Let's go Logan. And it feels like kind of just who you don't like. And then Miles is bringing up a good point. We need people on both sides to vote for. So Miles is willing to vote for Kate or Morgan, as we know. And then he wants Polly on the other side so that they have someone to vote for on the opposite tribe as well. Which is a good way of thinking about it, right? Like, it's not just who do you want not to win at the challenge tomorrow, it's who can you vote for depending on which tribe wins.
Yeah.
So
right. Makes sense to have
and kind of
to have somebody that on each side.
And sort of going along those lines, Karen wants to split up AJ from Kate and Morgan, so she's pitching to vote for AJ to go to the Baron tribe.
Which I think was an excellent idea. And why, I think that was a way to go.
Yeah. So it's interesting how everyone is kind of scrambling at this point in the game and making a lot of different choices when you really have no control over you have very minimal control over who is actually going on each tribe.
All right. So then they have to vote, right?
Yeah, so we find out that Polly is definitely going to the Baron tribe, but AJ and Logan are at a tie. So then we go to a revote, the first revote of the season, and it's for this. So then it comes out finally that Logan is going to be on the Baron tribe, and AJ is pulling rocks with the rest of them to figure out what tribe he's going to be on.
And poor Logan, she must have been so disappointed that she did not win that immunity.
Yeah. Well, Logan and Polly were both really upset.
Oh, they were.
Polly was saying, well, why am I being punished?
Yes,
and
yes.
This is a tough one. This is not worse than a vote out because that could probably be the worst thing to happen on Survivor. But I feel like this is even more personal than voting you out of the game. This is like, I want you to go to a beach.
Right. I want
nothing.
You to suffer tonight in the rain with no fire and no shelter. And I'm going to get breakfast tomorrow morning. So,
all right. So they vote again, and Logan, like you said, is with Polly.
Yes.
And then the rest
now
of
it's time for rocks.
Yes.
So we come up with the final teams. We see on the Barron tribe going to make their own shelter tonight. We have Polly, Logan, Miles, Kristen, and Kaylin. And on the Bounty tribe, going back to the regular camp, is Kate, Morgan, Zara, AJ, and Karin. So thank God AJ didn't get that last vote, because he would have been, that really, his game flipped the most, I think, with that vote.
Yes, but now I think it's a worse nightmare, because I believe he will make a pack with Morgan and Kate.
And Kate, yeah. Well, Karin is there to observe and possibly stop it. So
Unless she gets voted out, yeah. Well, anyway, it was an interesting episode. 2 different twists. The tribal and the reward were different, different aspects of the show. But all in all, it was interesting.
I just thought it was kind of an uneventful ending. That, a more interesting ending might have been them going back and trying to start to build their shelter or whatever. But it just everybody just kind of walked away.
Well, we'll find out more tomorrow on the next thing. So thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight.
Yeah, so we are not huge fans of this twist. Write in and let us know on Instagram at ATA Survivor, TikTok at ATA Survivor, and send us an email at ataustraliansurvivor@gmail.com. Let us know, do you want to see this twist again? And who do you think, which tribe, Barron or Bounty, will be winning tomorrow's immunity challenge? We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.